Greetings, this is Loke Elder, and this is another installment of Let's Talk Consciousness. The purpose of these videos is to take a look at various aspects of life through the lens that if life is a consciousness manifestation, a kind of chosen experience that has the illusion of being real, or at least has this larger consciousness implications, what do you do with that? How do you incorporate that in your day-to-day life? So, with that in mind, one of the things I went into in a previous video was celebrities right now who are in the midst of scandals in Hollywood: Weinstein, Spacey, Sheen. Where you look at that, in the previous video I brought it up actually for kind of a different reason, about basically looking at these people and understanding that when you put them on a pedestal in the past, that you're seeing that they really didn't belong there, and that they, like all people, have some dark side of them. Maybe not all quite as severe as what we're seeing in Hollywood, but meaning that to wake up to the idea that everybody around you has some aspect of this, and to try to wrap your head around that. So anyway, I come to find that today that Louis C.K. has accusations about this, and that kind of hit close to home because I like Louis C.K.'s comedy, and in one of my previous videos I mentioned that I thought of him as kind of a parenting role model, so that was like really troubling. But it actually wasn't surprising, because there was a point, I think about a year ago, that comedian Jen Kirkman made pretty much exactly that accusation, that these other women came forward, and it seemed oddly plausible. I didn't really suffer under this illusion that just because I liked his comedy, that it couldn't also be possible that he's doing this really dark shit too. So when that happened, I didn't like just swear up and down it couldn't be true. I just kind of put a pin in that and waited, and had a feeling that if it was true, other things would come out, and lo and behold, they did. So the implications are challenging, because we would like to think that people who we look at as good, that are good people, like I said in the other video, that we put on a pedestal, that they are somehow this idealized version of a human being that we strive to become. And when they fall short in this way, it's really disheartening, and we get really outraged. I mean, I think people are pissed off for a good reason because of the act, but I think on another level we're pissed off because we've had an illusion shattered. And I think getting to the even prior video about trying to acclimate people to understanding that the world has these really dark elements, and I was talking about conspiracies, but the fact that those are things that are coming out, and it seems like that is a trend, it's a wave of things coming out, and people are going to have to get into a new mindset about what life is, what this world is all about, and some of the things that people get up to. But anyway, with Louis C.K., like I said, I found it oddly plausible when I heard the first accusation. Now with 5, whatever it is, there'll probably be more. It does seem plausible. And when something traumatic happens, I don't find it to be appropriate to rush out to say, you have to forgive this person, because forgiving yourself and others is this transcendent direction that we are all kind of inevitably moving in. To rush out to say that to somebody who's in a lot of grief and pain, to me, it's not always that helpful. I don't think that's necessarily the time for it. I mean, if somebody's acclimated to that idea to begin with, maybe. But so, while this is still fresh in people's minds, I still would like to pose this side of it. And I'm reluctant, because I reflexively think people would be pretty upset when you say Louis C.K. or any of these people, Weinstein, Spacey, Sheen, that despite what they did, that they are fundamentally worthy and deserving of unconditional love and forgiveness, because this is some of the most core, like, visceral, feelings that we get about outrage, about, whether it's children being exploited or adults. So it's a rough one, and the only angle I can think of is that if I am going to bring this up, I guess in some sense it would be helpful to say that I've actually walked the walk of processing that kind of experience and trying to forgive people about it. Um, in a previous, actually, yeah, the previous video before, I mentioned that I was abused as a child and processing that, but there's actually a totally different, independent story that is another example of that as an adult. And it's also, it's weirdly, it kind of is an eye, a little bit of a peering into, as a man who doesn't really have to worry about being sexually assaulted, 99.99% of my life, you take for granted how women feel in this world because there's a whole lot of vulnerability that we generally, I'm 6 foot tall and 180 pounds, and I don't worry that many places that I go, and that's not the case for women. So I know that's kind of turning a totally different topic, but I'm bringing it around. For me, I had an experience when I was about 24, and I was in a restaurant that had a bar, and I was coming out of the bathroom, or just finishing up drying my hands at a paper towel dispenser, and a guy walking in just so unexpectedly just put his hand right on the front of my pants and just squeezed my dick and balls. Like it was so fucking unexpected and alarming and jarring. I could not believe that had happened, and it's like this deep, just something in you just drops. Like it's a sinking, awful feeling. And I remember I just pushed him back shoulder length and just hit him in the face a bunch of times and walked out and had the hostess call the police. But I had the luxury of hitting him in the face, and a lot of women don't. So it's like somebody who would be put in that position of being cornered maybe by Louis C.K. and and he wants to jerk off in front of him, and that's his thing apparently. I mean, that's the allegation at least. Like, to think how vulnerable that makes you feel and how fucking awful and how much that you as a person just sink inside yourself. Or I'm sure there's other ways people experience it, but it's a really fucking awful feeling, and it's hard to forgive somebody who puts you in that place. And it took me a long time. I mean, I'm 33, about to turn 34, so this is about 10 years ago that this happened to me. I would say that up until 7 years after it, I was still kind of, in a sense, gunning for this guy that did this. And he did it to a 14-year-old, and I think two of them. I found out about this much later when I got a call from the DA to share my experience with it. And it's so fucked up. Like, it's this serial thing. It's like, this person is such a threat. Why would you even want to forgive them? And I think it's important to make this really key distinction between forgiving somebody for your own sake and not holding a grudge versus ignoring what they did and letting it go unanswered. And that's not the same thing, and that's not called for. These things need to be confronted, and people need to be held to what they do. So that's not what I'm saying, but for your own quality of consciousness and your own peace of mind, it really does benefit you to forgive the person who does these things. And so I did have to bring myself to that place, and it's tough, man, because you want to get even, or you want any number of things, but um, it's it is empowering to let go and to feel like, whether that person dies in a ditch or lives a long, happy, fulfilling life, it doesn't matter. I'm back on my feet. I'm okay, and I'm gonna keep going. And if anything, I hope that they learn and grow out of whatever it is that's so distorted inside of them that they would do that. It's like, I don't want them to burn in hell or rot in jail. I want them to grow out of it and feel genuinely sorry and never do it again. But that's not a law and order kind of statement. It's just my hope for life. So find it in yourself to forgive, move on, let go, and don't let people slide on what they do, but find the peace within yourself to move on. So with that said, enjoy your now.